can wait when everyone is in, so we can do the prayers right away. I mean the sadhana right away, instead of the usual prayers.
Okay.
To save time. Then what we'll do is I will lead the prayers, but I will begin and I will ask Khenchen. You can unmute Khenchen so that people can hear his voice. Only thing is I will lead the beginning kind of, I will read it slowly so that everybody can follow. And you can put it on screen, the prayers.
So maybe the translator, please help to translate. Let the students know that when Khenchen is reading the prayers, he will also be reading the transmission together. So in case students who are requesting for the oral transmission of the text, that will be done during the prayers together. Okay, so Campbell, could you make a separate recording for this set of prayers? Okay. So do we still want to wait a little bit more, or we want to?
We can start, no problem.
We can start? Okay. Let me get the text out. Okay. Okay, so we will start with this prayers, the treasury of blessings.
Sanje Chedam Sogi Chonam La Chanju Pardo Dani Kyapso Che Dagi Jinso Jibe Sonam Ji Dola Penje Sanje Drupa Sho Sanje Chedam Sogi Chonam La Chanju Pardo Dani Kyapso Che Dagi Jinso Jibe Sonam Ji Dola Penche Sanje Dropa Sho Sanje Chedam Chana La Chanju Pado Dani Gyaso Che Dagi
Jinso Jibe Sonam Ji Drola Ben Sanje Dropa
Sho Semjen Tamjen Dewa Dam Devi Jodan Demba Gyuji Donga Da Donga Yi Jodan Tewa Gyuji Donga Lebe Dewa Tamba Tam Mindawa Gyuji Nirin Chadan Nidan Deve Tanyon Seme Bala Neba Gyurji Simjen Tamje Dewa Tam Deve Gyudan Demba Gyurji Tam
Yudon Trawa Jurji Dunga Mebe Dewa Tamba
Mindawa Gyurji Nirin Chadan Nidan Deve Tanyon Seme Bala Neba Gyurji Simjen Tamje Dewa Tam Devi Gyudan Demba ji donga da donga gi yudam jawa ji donga me dewa tamba ta mindawa ji nyirin chadam Nidan Jave Tanyon Tseme Pala Nebar Yurji Simjen Tamje Dewa Tam Deve Yudan Lembar
Стихи
Yurji
как-то, пришла касата
Dunga
получилось
Da
гутарки, как это помнишь,
Dunga Gi Yudan Java Yurji Dunga Mebe Dewa Tamba Tam Mindrawa Yurji Nirin Chadan Nidan Dreve Danyom Tseme Never Yurji Keme Tongba Nidan Tenchungi Nawa Game Sonjo Yume Tsu Rande Namkar Chudrin Jatsu Gu Rinjen Sendri Penyin Dale Ten Temba Tsume Shakya Sengi Ni Sergi Dojen Tsendam Peche De Chugu Sumso Doje Gedung Shu Chaye San Chaya Lekyan Shin Chaye Nyamsha Dezi Longse Na Sergi Rida Siji Babawa Yeshe Se Tawe Kayin Zamgi Temba Nyewe Seke Neden Chudu So Patso Yatsu Korgi Yonkor Shi Temba Zamgi Sishi Kani Namdru Dewa Chogi Patso Kyabgyun Dube Dani Chembosa Nyingje Chembu Tsulen Nyumeshin Sonne Velang Chembo Magyata Pega Dharma Tsende Chimido Temba Tuje Da Shin Koson Keso Lonche Konsan Chube Mene Tome Bensa Diton Aleva Nyinen Yoba Chabe So Sha Padam Gewane Tuson Sala Jesu Yerango Sajin Jaje Chuje Kolusu Choju Jumin Cheba Kodoso Chene Noga Tagu Yishego Tuson Konju Meba Jumuji Duje Nomo Jinji Tsotaja Chube Sugu Tado Nomo Daja Nime Sabe Gezoji Kaya Roa Kula Peledo Chuje Jabo Tado Nyejeji Chuje Jave Kombo Dobasho Daja Nime Roa Gamena Chuje Lawa Zoe Kadele Shindaba
Rinpoche
Nam Song Now
Nawa Jini Juje Chenle Deshe Chanjo Zome Jiboro Yishe Debe Nine Soade Manje Tanja Jembo Manyewa Sanjo
Bado
Uji Chong
Lama Temba
Namba Jumde Dejen Sheba Rachomba Yantawa
Zobe
Zobe
Sanje
Sanje
Pe Yawa Shakya
Shakya Dwala Chan
Cha
Salo
Chedo
Chedo Jaso
Jaso
Je
Chewo Lama
Lama
Temba Jumde
Jumde Dejen Sheba
Sheba
Rachomba
Rachomba Yanda
Yantawa
Zobe
Zobe
Sanje Pe Yawa
Ajarwa Shaja
Dubala Cha
Dwala
Selo Chedo
Chedo Jaso Je
Lama
Lama Dhamma
Temba
Jodhen De Dejen Cheva
Sheba Rachomba
Rajumba
Yanda Ba Zobe
Zobe Sanje Pejawa Chaja Dwala Shan Sal
Chedo
Chedo Jaso Je
Tayata Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeso
Dhamma Ni Chung Ni Chung Chimori Tada Chon Tada Yindwa Godo Mena Dod Dada Yi Chung Yi Chimori Dada Train Mother
Can you scroll a little bit back?
Tati Yaji Judy
Okay, continue, scroll back. I mean, not back, continue here, forward.
이소도 너 건다 투주 거기서 너 책 누구 얻으면 된다는 거를
Tuju Gulwe. No. Just hold on.
되는데 네 투주 거기 수도 어디 이어서
그래서
아무네 마무네
There don't many mamani so there don't many mamani so
마무네 소데 아무네
there don't many
마무네
mamani so there don't many 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 mamani so there there don't many mamani so there don't many mamani Moni moni ma moni soha tembe kule
Zon David
yeshigi
Zon David
som di debe kengi tembe kule yeshigi wese nazobe nawa chembe tada senjen tamje gi jiba tamje seshin Tewa chembe lamdi yenden tsushindu gede chirime dobe sanbar yu. Deshe seje kungi toge.
Madran was a loss.
Mendedi sa yaga mendedi. Yena dumba jelera mendedi.
Not the root carrying.
Deshe seje kungi toge dan zeba melan kenze nube tu. Lame yeshe gyurdu jidawa tenda kona so yuwa sho. Tadini kena machigi tanda gyabji Pema karbu kola di songye di tanda songshana di jel tuzur hama di chibu chigi.
Madran got to do corner the draw, no you. Don't get the loss.
Tewa chimbe lamgi yende tsushindu kede chimindu ve sanembara gyuse di jela rola. So sometimes when you do the practice, then can you unmute Rinpoche? Sorry, mute. Okay. So sometimes after the mantra recitation and then after reciting the line which talks about from the Buddha's body, there emanates a great radiance of multicolored rays of wisdom light, dispelling all our own and others' obscurations and causing all the genuine qualities of the Mahayana path to arise within us so that we attain the level of perfection from which we will never return again to samsara. And so before that, then after the mantra also we can the sunga desavi jela mende de indi jela tembe kule shigu se na zube na chimbu se marwe ki sunga the
Teta jindu sumba saas, tene tunzum nong su menra pusa tun chua daga menra sun chua sayduwa. So menra donjun tena te menra jeba soduma buri, duwa ta saaj buri. Teba tene todo tangwi doji jenima doduma sayima kajima. Na wana kongse kongye chua chua tene te kongru ngepan kaji niga ndegido. Te jeba de niji pekala ndo la sayina, jeba
okay. Okay. So after the recitation of the mantra and then the 2 lines, then before you end the session, what we can do is one can recite the long mandala, Sodhima, which is 37 heaps of mandala, or the short mandala, Sashi Peju Chushime Dotam. And then after that, one can also, followed with that, one can recite any of the prayers of praise to Sakyamuni Buddha. So we have Sakyamuni Buddha's praise, different prayers, especially prayers which is related to the 12 deeds of the Buddha. And then if we have time, if one has time, then one can also read sutras like Pundarika Sutra, and then Lalita Vistara Sutra, which and also Jataka stories, and then 108 names of the Buddhas, Sugatas, So these are the sutras that one can also recite, and then after that, then do after that one can do the dedication. So this is how it is being practiced. This particular sadhana on Shakyamuni Buddha.
신조차 나도 갖고도 템바 마제바 템바 동 세모 양스 니고 사람 템바 것이 유비 꾸여지 쇼던지 니모 동업이 됐다도 노빈도시 정어도 니로 오셔야돼 뭔가도 되지 근데 되죠 템바 니지 뭐 저다 투제비 술이 쏜데 종조 산제바 투제비 술 산제저도 네 투제비 술这状态，对son的双节到相处上班，前么那节那么他把他送了动物的结束不当的，相处三十么节，他们家说吧没吧，他生气你把工作没被安呢，相处说吧学吧，适当是的，日后怕是什么出了什么系统，切吧就现在他那就工怎么才能，开始说他这其实的。단주 토베 돈도 만주로 가서 미르 토베 돈이 유한자 아래와서 대리스 아다 대가 제주 대다 단주 가서 단주 류대 출라 마서 그 대한 펜치를 가서 파지와 티바침에 개신이도 최고 말 개신년 첼라도 동화 토고 말 동화 조다용 손로 토고 말 거기 찾아가게 되네 근데 있어도 단한테 봐 맞이면도 가서 로로로 코드 맞으면도 하고 온도와 그래서 다자 때문에 세 레지 추바 som지 렌지 손주 전부 네 심도 봐. 도 도만이 송라. 다때 다데 공그 존데 추바 som지 손지 탐지 좀 어머니 마음에 대해서 추바 중화레스. 존데 니비 다자 때문에 샤자 또 손지레스. 시제죠 총스 봐 주화레스. 존데 추바 손지 손을 자지원 세메바 토베. 톱지 있음 레지르바 톰지 종화동 근데 롱은 그까산데 지지우장 가 송아 도지 TV 제림 조리 고민이다 가 좀나 가 두바나 바체메 그이마지 봐 두바주 주로시 시라 파스메 딱 이게 중원수가 강가 다른 가다 가서 내마타바 엄마는 마음을 줘 어다 대전도 딱 전에도 못 보소 요리스 다디노 간디자 이신도 요한테 테마시 가지면 내말을 맞아도 특자지 빼마 가본 마 그래서 대주야도 진짜 주는 좀
The most important aspect of this particular practice is while doing this practice, the visualization, the importance of the very clear visualization of Shakyamuni Buddha, that thinking that Shakyamuni Buddha is in front of oneself in reality. So that is very important visualization. And along with that, as mentioned in the instruction after at the end of the sadhana, in general, whatever you are doing, whether it is moving, walking, sleeping, or sitting, you should constantly remember the Buddha. So the daytime practice is not just during the session when you practice, but also like when you are not practicing, in the sense that when one is not kind of like sitting down and doing the sadhana. even when you are engaging in daily activities, the common activities, usual activities of moving, walking, sleeping, or sitting, then one should constantly remember the Buddha, remembering his qualities, remembering his qualities of the enlightened body, speech, and mind. Even at night, now this particularly talks about the practice during the night when you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, consider that the radiance of the Buddha's form illuminates the whole of space in every direction, lighting it up as brightly as during the day. So the radiance of Buddha's form is something that we need to visualize. At all times, emulate the Buddha's actions from the moment he first generated the mind of awakening, and follow the example of the Buddhas and great Bodhisattvas of the past, present, and future. So always remind oneself of Buddha Shakyamuni's journey to enlightenment, beginning from the first moment when he generated the mind of awakening, the bodhicitta, and then all the way to how he practiced the path, what kind of hardship that he went through in order to accumulate the merit, purify the negativities, and as a result of which he became a Buddha. And then at the same time, also remind oneself of other great bodhisattvas of past, present, and future who actually first generated the mind of bodhicitta and then practiced the path. Maintaining your commitment to precious bodhicitta without ever allowing it to waver, exert yourself as much as possible in the bodhisattva's conduct in general. Now, this particularly speaks about the importance of one's determination in the practice of the Mahayana path, particularly once you have taken the Bodhisattva vow, how one should maintain the commitment to bodhicitta, and then make sure that the bodhicitta doesn't get degenerated but increase further and further, and then make effort in the practice of the bodhisattva's conduct, particularly the 6 paramitas, from generosity to wisdom, the 6 paramitas, and also in the practice of shamatha and vipassana, the calm abiding, single-pointed meditation, and the special insight of vipassana. So why do we do this? Why do we engage in these practice? Is so as to make meaningful the freedom and advantages of this human existence. So when we are carried away by the worldly concerns, the 8 worldly concerns of this life, and when our mind, when our body, speech, and mind is distracted in these worldly activities, what results to that is the result will be in samsara. That means one goes through the unending cycle of birth and death in samsara in general, and particularly in the low realms of existence. So, which means to say that we are not using our human existence, which has freedom and advantages, and not making good use of it. We are not making this life meaningful because of being distracted in worldly activities. Now, when we have found this precious human existence, we have met with our spiritual master who shows us the path, general path, and particularly the Mahayana path. It's very rare that so far we have this kind of opportunity, and it is also not sure that we will find this kind of opportunity in the future also. So therefore, since it's very rare that we actually make our human life existence meaningful, now is the time to actually make it meaningful by engaging in all these activities mentioned above, like being committed to the generation and cultivation of bodhicitta, engaging in the 6 paramitas, and also the practice of shamatha and vipassana. So when we do this, then we make our life meaningful, because these practices lead us to happiness, ultimate happiness of liberation and enlightenment. So therefore, it's advised here. Then it is said in several sutras that merely hearing the name of our teacher, the Buddha, ensures that one will gradually progress along the path to great enlightenment without ever falling back. Now, this is particularly talks about the mantra that we are reciting, Om Muni Muni Mahamuni So, Tadhyatha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni So. This actually recites the name of the Buddha, Sakyamuni Buddha, and the merit or the benefit of hearing the name of our teacher is that it will ensure that one will gradually progress along the path to great enlightenment without falling back. And the power of the Dharani. It is also said that the Dharani revealed above is the source of all the Buddhas. It was through the force of discovering this Dharani that the king of Shakyas, Sakyamuni Buddha himself, attained enlightenment, and that Avalokiteshvara became the supreme of all bodhisattvas. So through simply hearing this dharani, a vast accumulation of merit will easily be gained and all karmic obscurations be purified. And when reciting it, obstacles will not occur. So this particularly speaks about the merit or the advantages of reciting the dharani of Sakyamuni Buddha, the mantra that we just recited, the two mantras that we have recited.
Kawa Shiva Jatra Jeji Padu Shibi, Diba Tamji Shumanjua, So Pen Chemeva, Daji Songua, that tea that I do. When do not try to deepen revenue Sunday. Diba was in about this one, Tony, not it. Simbuke, Mazuates, or some Mazuate came, Tamji. Can I tell us on the son of Don? Joseph Kachima Imado?
This has been taught in the abridged Prashna Paramita. Other teachings say that by reciting this dharani only once, all the harmful actions you have committed throughout 800,000 kalpas will be purified. They say that it possesses boundless qualities such as these and is the sacred heart essence of Buddha Shakyamuni. So the dharani itself is not that difficult. It's quite simple. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni So or Tadeta Om Muni Muni Mahamuni So, which is quite simple. And if you memorize it, it's not that difficult. So one can recite this mantra, and knowing the meaning of the mantra as well as knowing the benefit and advantages of reciting this mantra. And particularly it talks about the purification of the karmas, the bad karmas that we have accumulated in the past. And when we recite this mantra, the negativities of 800,000 kalpas will be purified. So such is the power and benefit of the reciting this mantra. So keeping this in mind, then recite the mantra.
도저 신화 땐저 관다 나마타바티 잡추 Pema kabu che chaba, je chua chabala, chua juji, yandi jubi chani, chiba tong chaba, jung chiba, chuba ye. Ye tongman chuba jibani, namu guru menru shiri kumara budaya, namu chanza guru lama, menru shiri jenzun juba yung, jennu chuba, chanza lo siya, isma, chuba juba, yung chia jubi chani, tong chiba tong chabani, sonje kundu nyoba nini ba some tamba chu di yante dang kade tembi tebi chuchi da nong wonju nyoba pesin ji nena nimi ni je tamba la che du che chen zba ka zong che wi chu gabi zum ngo pema ka bi sara tuju no ba je ban de to shi isa dan ku ji soji sheba tong je ba 다 sonje tangje sonje kun 좀 녀바니 니바 추구 녀바니 니바 sonje tang 좀 좀아 대노는 주마미 버때마 주 때마도 다지데마 다샤데마 노지 샤자 부츠와 노미 지와 대연대동 도자노 처도 tuk집이 소제 까지 젬비 랑근 류아 예선의 대비군이 대바대 매속 추지수 추지다 나그 뭐지 녀바 페이지 세드 나그 쿠라 메쇼데 나지 뭐 너건 타 녀바 추지데 대비 추지데 매도 조스 거니 자실 가져서 나그 타는 녀지 랍지바 랍지 지구 근데나 다 저가 안되나 님이 조서 정된데 세노도 님이 땜바다 당하루 수게 봐 노바 손지바 대바서 통제장 어데 땜바 투고 뭐 되니 땜반쯤이 송사 님이 이제 땜바라 체체 좀바 체도 대전도 연대 토천 체체 좀바 그저 손으로 사비 또 이제 가로 좀부 제위 소 단데는 손지 땜바라 주도의 고자 탐지 사람 그만 넣어서 손으로 사지고 가봐 좀부 이거도 와 가서 제위 소 때는 내 가와신 죽으스 가빈 죽음 가진 죽은 죽고 근데 재미 찾다거든 되게 메토 뱀 찾다고 요 뱀아까비 메토 까마고 살아 간진 정감 뭐 하는 거지 뒤지고 게 니만 가져서 근데 제바 제도 사실 세주든 뒤지 제반들 뜻이 있는데 저 투자지 뱀아까비 뒤지고 게 누가 또 와서 봐라 너들 체매가지는 토대바 담지 수지 되니 니한테 너들한테 뜻이 있어 그것이 있잖아요 단들은 신이 투서만 건데 손을 따니 죽이 있나 다 가르쳐 제일 세도 시야도 좋거든 땜바 체마도 땜바 체마스 땜바 좀 되게 때도 소함해 봐줘도 요새 더 시급에도 내 뜻이 있어 그러지 않아
That's right. Actually.
请大家稍等一会儿 ，Please wait a while.
So this is in a Khenchen. Then after this practice, then we are going to spend a little bit of time to understand the supplementary text, which actually talks about the in detail about Buddha's life, especially in terms of how we practice this particular sadhana. And the text itself is called Gyabche Pema Karpo, which is a supplementary text to the sadhana called the White Lotus. So this is actually a very huge text, and in which the detail of the journey of Sakyamuni Buddha, especially beginning from generating bodhicitta to practicing the path, and particularly the engaging in the 6 paramitas in various circumstances, and finally how he achieves enlightenment. So before that, it's important to generate the intention, the vast intention of bodhicitta. And in the text itself begins with a homage to Manjushri, and then in Sanskrit, particularly Namaguru Manjushri Kumar Buddhaya, the homage to the youthful Manjushri, and then particularly in Tibetan, the first 4 lines actually talks about the qualities of Sakyamuni Buddha, the teacher of this particular age, the fortunate and the 4th Buddha, who actually, in terms of achieving enlightenment, and particularly the qualities, it's important to remind of his qualities, and then also his kindness. And when we know the kindness of Sakyamuni Buddha through his boundless qualities, the wisdom and compassion, then what happens is we give rise to devotion and faith. Second one is the second line or the verse speaks about Mipham Rinpoche, the promise of the composing the text, which talks about those who are fortunate and in terms of being born in this particular age where one can have access to Buddha's teaching, and particularly who have interest in the teachings of the Sakyamuni Buddha. And in order for them to delight them, then Mipham Rinpoche invites to read this particular text, which talks about the remembering Sakyamuni Buddha, the Bhagwan, the one who has achieved the awakening, the state of awakening, and the one who has destroyed all the inner demons and also possesses all the sublime enlightened qualities. And those who really want to remember the Sakyamuni Buddha and particularly practice upon his sadhana, then first of all, it's important to develop what we call the strong confidence in terms of developing the trust and faith in Sakyamuni Buddha, and that too based on reasoning. When we engage in the practice of Sakyamuni Buddha, sadhana of Sakyamuni Buddha, and which actually involves 2 aspects, and one is the single pointed meditation, which is calm abiding, shamatha, and then vipassana, which is actually talks about the special insight, focusing on Buddha's form. So in order to understand this, Mifan Rinpoche would like to first, summarize what is important for us to keep in mind.
사구즈 세구도 성구라서 되지 많이 봐. 소나 잘리스 봐. 거의 제 밥을 리츠다요. 소나 체메바 좀이 셔다 인사니. 안다 데라 중세 10군이. 아주 대바 때문에 메도비 대바 때문에 모두 땅이 거니. 다 가르치면 손제 거미고. 손제 거미베. 미비 거니. 대신에 제지는 봐 잡아도 나도 다음에 또 넣어줘라. 선비 때 매일 권이시 매일 단도 담아도 매일 단대 연구를 단 통진 주바 임비 대선도스 전 아서 나디 저거네 요나 제바지 셀루타이바 대용 시 컨숨 다 네베 컨숨 네인데 더 컨숨 네인데 나도 지가 간데 내유를 쓰나 나도 좀보게 말 사람 만나서 레드 냠옥 이건 수완데 대줄 내년에 왕기 제신 왕매도 코드베 거기 산지 남네 사 컨스메 몸모시 자고데 컨스 산지 세메 봐줘 봐 가르지 제글스는 동아 주동아 차반도 제 동아 손지 샤비 칭댕이지 치와도 마라비 다 데빈네가 론토비다 데빈네가 다시만 메토비 데빈네 다시마데 메토진 론토 메토진 코바난 코비체 코반 코비체 소나 도나다 토마 메반 다바데바 아 세라 주바 몽보로 양 선제어 가지 용주 요만 이제는 용할 건 말이야. 선제 있으면 최소 나위 들어갈까 말이야. 유찬 소나 도나 롱블루디 소로도 다비티 추드베 다비티 토바 나 신도용 자람나 랭가 좀니 예바 nga kawa 인정 msiba tonje je sibata jalamna kapkasom sibata bjila jalamna ringa som kasum msiba tabs ne de pe ba ye jang 다리 가서 다자 논니스 나로서 시비타 달레지 튼들 라라 다와제 저 저저비 르데 톱진 손제 땀바 르모치 땅 인자도 스나양 다 손제 땀바 나서 무슨 자비 고가 손에 잔들 도마 쉬니 노마 쉬게 자리 어떤 자주 스나양 니만 나도 돼서 세신도 통진 노자노면 세신도 통진 내라 소비 동하지 세바다 다들 메시카니 좀은 되고는 로도 소구만 동아치네 처음에 시대에 동하 자자다 뭐 주된 주세면 그거지 동하지 어떤 세와용 시도 뭐뭐 아다 대통지 세님 뭐 이봐
So Mipam Rinpoche points here, points the importance of one particular word in Tibetan, which is called Gyunzen Shebe Theba, Tempo, which talks about developing faith based on reason, not just blind faith, but faith based on reason, which means to say that one needs to understand the true reason why we take refuge in the Buddha. What are the qualities of the Buddha, the enlightened body, speech, and mind, which makes Buddha worthy to be the object of refuge. How Buddha is an infallible object of refuge. So that too, like the faith should be stable, firm. Confidence and faith in the Buddha based on reason should be firm. And then with that confidence and trust and certainty in the qualities of the Buddha, then those who wish to practice the particular meditation on Sakyamuni Buddha's body, which involves the twofold practice of shamatha and vipassana, the calm abiding and the special insight. Then when one engages in this particular practice, then all the purposes of oneself and others will be accomplished. Now, how this works, that Rinpoche points out, he lays out the reason for this. How does one accomplish the purposes of oneself and others through this particular practice? Generally, the beings who are born in samsara, in the three realms of existence, the desire realm, form realm, and formless realm, those who are born in samsara are born due to two factors, and the two factors are le da nyomong. Le means karma, action. Nyomong means negative emotions. So because of karma and negative emotions, sentient beings are born in samsara, in the three realms of existence. And those who are born in samsara because of these two reasons, they are bound by what we call the three levels of suffering, the three types of suffering. And the first type of suffering is the suffering of pain or suffering of suffering, the physical pain and emotional pain, mental pain. And then the second level is the suffering of change, which includes the pleasures that we experience in samsara, which are subject to change and which are causes of suffering. Then the third one is the conditioned suffering, all pervasive condition of suffering, which means the subtle impermanence. Because of being impermanent subtly, then everything is kind of subject to pain. So therefore, sentient beings in samsara are bound by these three levels of suffering. And as a result of that, beings are devoid of what we call happiness. They are deprived of happiness because of being bound by three types of suffering. And that too, the time frame in terms of like how they are born in samsara, and where they suffer, go through all these different levels of suffering, is kind of like incessant, endless, from the beginningless time till now. And if we count, it will be infinite, countless times, numbers of times we are born and we die and we circulate in samsara, from one form of existence to another form of existence. So in this journey in samsara, seldom do we actually encounter, or seldom are we in the position and a good circumstance to be born when the Buddha appears in the world. Or even if the Buddha is born, like hardly are we in the position and circumstance, are fortunate enough to hear the teachings. And also, even if the teachings are existent, very rare do we actually achieve what we call the human existence with freedom and advantages. So it's very rare, it's very difficult to be in such a situation, such fortunate circumstances. So that's why it's always taught in the teachings that the this human existence of precious with freedom and advantages is very difficult to find. However, one of the most amazing thing is that, wonderful thing is that today we are fortunate enough to be born as a human being and with all the freedom and advantages. And we met with the teachings of the Buddha. And which is something like a very fortunate thing, which is an amazing thing, a wonderful thing to happen. However, the sad part is that life is very short. The life of the being, especially in this age, what we call the age of degeneration, the 5 degeneration, the degeneration of sentient beings, degeneration of view, of negative emotion, of time, and of life. So therefore, life is very short. Humans live very short. Lifespan is very short. And even in this short life existence, short lifespan, we are tormented by all kinds of suffering, including diseases. And today, like we can relate with this particular thing because the whole world is kind of going through what we call the fear and the suffering and the pain of the pandemic, the disease, the widespread disease that we all are going through. So therefore, like even though we are on the one hand, we are fortunate to be in such a comfortable, such a fortunate circumstance to be born when the teachings are prevalent, are existent, are born when we have interest in the teachings of the Buddha. However, the sad part is like there are so many obstacles. Life is very short.
Lesur Rumadon, Shujuala, Chinel Hano Gomada, Lesur Rumadon, Sonji Chura Sujendo, Nade Chinet, Gomba Sebayon, Shindo Gomboris. That Karis said to me, Sherab Tendo, Sherab Tesiji, Turn Chimbo, Juma, Sonji Tembadon, Jara, Turn Yuba, Jim Minibas. Yuba into Sunday, Sonji Tamba Java time, Yoneche Gubale, this one of the Miniba. Other Karchis, as a wrong so on the Agotori. Send this Sochi, Sondo Sonoto, Tom Yeda, Jide Chuji, Sawakuna, Jide Chuji, Yimba, Mbashila, and that's a Pazon Rabba, Temba, Niman and Mazin. Congo Marva, Carton said, Coach did send something to Jidu Chedun as you, Congo Yomar. Other day won't Chote. Sendi Noa Ten Carza, Logan Dogata, Noga Lochuan, Chayam, Keniva Degmar, Dedabu, said to them Bahama, La Yeti Chiu Majins, Yeti Maru, the Dedav Yeti Chen, said Shedum Sonolan Kone. Tandig Lodging, sent the Yorubu, Dushi, says the German, she married Sona, the Chedo Saya Kanya. Adan Tuji Druga teaches on the she downs. Wrong loose on the chew what of chew what to choose like Pandu Kaya Mabadi, Nibo Koya Mabadi, Wrong Lu, Chui Chubutabu, Chui Buatabu. Tana Nibo Jumeba, she was another sort of that, to read Jam, never saw at Mazaka came Nibo Meba. Or that day, Meba down. The Nayate Mashi, the Kaji, Razu, Kaji Niso, Johnny Tom. Second name about Ujela Soba, Tetamji John. Malone the tomato, Malone Yiko, no Jim, but tell Dembazun, Samazoni. Lipa, Titan, Sono Tony, Sono Lipa Tana. Jijo, Nibo may be Madas, Tetanji Sono, Sanogo Malone Tomato, Niman Tomaji, the Kazan Bezo, the Tepakai member. I think I do lose Sinjo Kong, as the dog of Wang, then cross on them. Other say Madabaton. Nana Neba. Long time jet children, Jebby Chuji. One Negro Chujin. Turn them better, she said, Tom Jig and Jebby Fluid Chujin. Not someone calls as a drones that near Tom Jig, Fluid. Madame Jill, some of them. Pie, my drones that say, Juno Joe, Tom Jig Chujin. Tana got the door said, Duhan never lame be Chujins. Wrong Saji, Lundi. Open Duhan, you are Mazuka met Duhan never be Chujin. Yet Shido Morova, Nejang. Yizim thing I do that, Yitim Roachilla, Yisha Ne, Nejang, Jonzajani. Nejang, Teta Mishipa, Jide Kobe Punzo, Deva, Tabi to Shi, Siju Fute, Tanzo Chus searching. Dibato Duhaji, Trebach Telachin, Juma Nyobe, Kapshi doors. Ada love the Chijo, Dodo maybe. Adan Chiva Lepara, no Japa Tabus, no God, no Japa, told Java about Tabu. Adabi, Jumpa Mejuba, and the Kaya making it.
So on the one hand, they are like life is short, and then within that short span, there is a lot of obstacles. There are a lot of obstacles, including diseases, different types of ailments. And then on top of that, we are also tormented by, even when we are healthy, we are tormented by negative emotions of attachment, aversion, ignorance, jealousy, pride. And as a result of that, our mind is not in a position to really practice Dharma, because our mind is distracted. Our minds are distracted. Our minds are overwhelmed by emotions, negative emotions. And because it lacks that clarity and stability to practice Dharma, then it's very rare to find, even if we have interest in the Dharma, the actual practice in the Dharma is very rare to find. And as a result of that, even though we are in the, just as mentioned before, we are in a very fortunate situation of having met the Dharma and having interest in the Dharma, we fail to actually make the best out of our situation. And that is something very sad. Why this is so is because we are distracted in worldly activities, engaging in all kinds of worldly activities, including business, including farming, and our life is, the whole of our effort in our life is directed to worldly activities, and also to the 8 worldly concerns. And these are what we call the distractions. And these, because of these distractions, we are not able to practice. And even though the appearance of this life is like very ephemeral, very fragile, very transient, just like lightning, just like a flash of lightning. So when there's a flash of lightning, it is momentary. The moment the lightning appears, the next moment it is no more. So our life is also like that. Even though it is not trustworthy, reliable, the appearance of this life, we still are very much attracted to it. We still are very much caught up in it. And we always have this thought that we still have time. And in terms of our body, even though it's like water bubble, very fragile, susceptible to die any moment, and there's no essence in the body as itself, yet we strongly hold on to it and think it to be substantial. And our life is being kind of mostly emphasized in the activities of, taking care of one's near and dear ones, settling scores with people who actually harm us, the enemies, and then running after all the material things that we need. And whole of our life, the time, that precious time that we have, is directed to these activities. And these so-called prosperities of this life, success or whatever you may call it, even though the very thing that we run after are very much insubstantial, like the appearance in the dream. When we have dream, in the dreams, everything appears so real. However, when we wake up, there's nothing there. There's nothing substantial there. So there's not much difference between the appearance of this particular state when we are awake and the appearance during the dream. Both are same in being unreal. However, because we don't investigate, because we don't really look deeper, we see a lot of difference. And as a result of that, we are very much attached and attracted to appearance of this life. And even though it is unstable, essenceless, meaningless, uncertain, because life is so uncertain, and everything is subject to but get separated from oneself. And everything, the conditioned things are perishable, deceptive, and not trustworthy. However, we still do not know that this is so. And as a result of that, we kind of are deluded. And therefore we think that life has a meaning, and it is kind of pleasurable, it is nice, it is wonderful, blissful, and things are things remain, they're kind of permanent. There's something that we can secure things, and these actually kind of a wrong attitude or mistaken way of looking at the reality of life actually deceives us. And that is something we need to really think properly and carefully.
Cabo Gable, Nago Megable, Tim Pembachada, Yoba don't to buy. Tori Tongason said the Cabo Gable, such 축제부 사이나 제바시마 토지사 메뉴데 또 대나네 조원은 토지 주노데 가장 먼저 전에 수리를 재미 송한도지 수리를 땐 송한도 domba송이다 토지를 해와요 대 메시지라 땅에 송송마로 노사메도 미게벨레지 내서 냐바지나 떨어지 내서 지어네 내신 생도 태소요 말 대니 고노마도 로서요 말 내신 대형 좀 먼저 소할 때 집을 소화해 봐 maybe 춘데 춘데 네 춘데라 조건라 소바 이거 너건 조건 살았어 니나 되는 단위비 소용 담에도 돼 배나 대바 중에서 또나 저쪽 봐요 저쪽 스바 삼아 봐 영장 코비드 지알면 그 스마 봐 놓아좀 먼저 레사 레사마 톱지 르 동안 용거 왔다 봐 사마 랑근 제바 다근 제바 제 그건 그나스 파파 소소치와 통진다 땀을 지고 조세 때나 같이 해줘 당가 좀 메시지 누가 소주대 다 레카나즈 손다부자 때 아주 레카나드 땡게데 게신이 제 담아서 소매 두제지 코네 땡기를 맞으지 수땡마 파이 땡기면 마이 땡기면 요 잡이 땡기면 처음에 그때 토고 말 어다 요즘 마병 그때 토고 말 레카나게 제부 데두 레카빈 제부 대와리 디빈 제부 나빈 제부 동아리 데두 때 되는 소화해 봐 롱게 노시 품을 주나 민게라 선제 레니지 정원지 파모치 몽시와 선제 레니지 정원지 가서 선 코스모 선제 통제 단 선지 스발레메 공사 레조주 대 많이 보다 파모치 몽시와 게벨레네 지바 뇽 게벨레 뇽 메게벨레네 몽보시 롱게 낭게 루비 딱 컨트롤스 대 데부터 제가 지금 연수송도 요와 몽오
So without knowing the fragility of life and the impermanence of life, the uncertainty, the uncertain nature of life, and one actually, because of one's mistaken attitude, or mistaken way of thinking of what actually life is, then what happens is we are deluded, and as a result of that, we waste our life in meaningless activities. And in those activities, like when we live our life, most of us actually engage in sowing the future seeds for the future pain and suffering. We create more. Like, so that's the vicious cycle that we are in. And in that process, in the process of engaging in non-virtuous activities, meaningless activities, then all of a sudden, like from nowhere, death strikes like lightning. And then again, one goes through the vicious cycle of birth and death, from this life to the next. So even though life, death is certain, that death is kind of, all of us kind of are subject to die, the tricky thing is that it is not, the death actually itself is not predictable, that the death will happen at this particular time. There's no kind of like surety. So that actually makes us even more vulnerable, and therefore it's important to remind ourselves of the unpredictability of death, unpredictability of life, and certainty of death, but unpredictability of when it will happen. So once we pass away from this life, then what will happen after we die? If if after we die, the body kind of like disintegrates and the consciousness actually goes through the transition from this life to the next. If that is not the case, and if death is the end of everything, body and consciousness, of course, body get disintegrated, but consciousness still remain according to the Buddhist philosophy. If that is not the case, if everything ends with death, then we don't really need to worry about things. However, in reality, that's not the end of it. The consciousness actually travels from this life to the next. After death, one goes through the intermediate state, and then the next life in whatever kind of like our karma, our actions, kind of like the force of our actions drive us, we will be there. So therefore, like our activities, our actions of this life determines our destiny, our kind of where we'll be in the future, in a good situation or a bad situation. It depends entirely upon our actions, whether it's positive or a negative karma. So one thing is sure from the Buddhist perspective is that if one has engaged in the virtuous actions, then the higher rebirth, or even within the samsara, one is in a good position where there are chances of what we call experiencing comparatively pleasurable situations. And if our actions are predominantly negative, then what happens is the result will be the low realms of existence, where we go through immense suffering. And that is certain, because action determines the future, what we will become in the future. And that is what we call the law of cause and effect, and it is infallible. So therefore, whoever is in samsara, whoever is subject to cause, subject to karma and negative emotions, for them, this there's no other way, there's no other future rather than to be born in samsara, in any of the existence, levels of existence. Even if we think of like, arhats, like those who have destroyed the cause of samsara, which is ignorance, even though they have achieved what we call the arhathood, still, because their body is still the physical body is still what we call the result of the karma, the past karma, they have to go through have to experience the result of their karma until they leave their corporal body, mortal corporal body. So therefore, there's no kind of need to speak about ordinary beings, that karma kind of determines our future. So if we look at how beings in samsara fare, apart from few individuals who are like there are individuals like, incarnated being who has actually got realization, who has control over their mind, who has control over their negative emotions. Apart from these few individuals, most of us, we can say that we are driven by karma and negative emotion. And if we look within ourselves, we can say that in a day, how much of positive activity or virtuous activity we engage in, and how much of negative actions that we commit. And if we try to measure, most of us actually fall into the negative actions, kind of like become more predominant rather than the positive actions. And as a result of that, the future is kind of bleak. Future is not so bright because of our actions. Our actions determines our future. And therefore, it's important to know that the look within oneself and check one's action, whether it's positive action or negative action, and then accordingly to practice and make the right choices.
Tatani somji shebani nyong tatani ngaso de jen somji sono tongi da haju nyong nu so 가된 토이스 제나용 다도 메라서 제나용 메라 제가나지 너빈 보바 면도바 토도 바발라 스바 동하 망라 슬라민도 제스만 탑적 동하 사는 치보 동위 동위 서대ข้อสุนัน 릭스 칸데 제종 동하지 동하 주비 동하 차반도지 동하 섬지 롬베바 세지 내데 코베니 메바데 메오톰 스무 공데메 스무 레이타분들 양니 용도 나도 달르데 말 세토마니 마음바나요 다 늘데나데 용 데로마 진로사베 타만 메바 근데 가메세데 주바츠모 메요바 선하고는 문화도 거기는 고고 콘로 가메 코로고 왔다라 산지 나온니 코빈니엔들이 타바 타발라 다 가르고서 대 접인데 봐대 손지 주도 견디 겐 마도베 잡제 메바 로코다 제데 니 타번에 타지버다 내 근세데 코빈니 된지 손은 동 시스와나 내 대를 잡니 봐 잡이지 속을 마서 타메바 장도와 아다 차데 상제 제수 temba 상제기 연대 제수와 또 좀 지나서 연대 제수 temba라 소바 나 점반에 신도 더 제비 신나 토마 손제를 대빈도 시고 마 샤데 손제 대바된 거
So just as we were talking about the karma, the effects of karma and effects of our actions, the consequences of our actions, if you do not make right choices and if our choices are more towards negativities and actions that that are driven by negative emotions, then the result would be the rebirth in the three unfortunate or low realms of existence. And they are like in the hell realm, we go through the intense suffering of intense heat and cold, and that too like unbearable suffering and for a long time. And in the hungry ghost realm, we go through the we experience the extreme suffering of hunger and thirst. And in the animal realm, being kind of like ignorant and also suffer from stupidity and being exploited by others, and also being eaten by one another. So if you look at the fish and so forth, the bigger ones eat the smaller ones, sometimes smaller ones eat the bigger ones. So the chain reaction that the food chain that we see in the animals, and that is the suffering that we can relate to, because it's animal realm is something that we actually see. So all these kinds of pain and suffering that one goes through as a result of negative actions. If we just think of the intensity of the suffering, the degree of the suffering, if we, when we are here as humans, and as humans, like if we think like how much pain that we can actually bear, even a day of intense heat and cold, a day of tiredness, a day of like the suffering that we go through related to hunger and thirst is something unbearable. If that is the case, just think that if we are born in those existence, form of existence, how can we actually bear? So we can fathom, we can just infer that what kind of pain that we might go through if we are born in those existence. So it's actually the we need to generate that kind of fear of the pain and suffering that one might go through if we engage in negative actions. So therefore, however, like even though it is the situation, this is the situation, this is the reality, there is hardly many like who actually kind of like think on those lines and prepare for the future. Even if we are born in so-called what we call the higher realms of existence in samsara, namely God realm or human realm and demigod realm, in the human realm, we go through the four rivers of suffering: birth, old age, sickness, and death. We are also tormented by our desires. Our desires remain unfulfilled, which is actually one of the most dominant suffering that we go through when our wishes are not fulfilled. And whatever we don't want, calamities, adversities, and so forth, befall us in abundance. And therefore, we go through immense suffering, even in human existence. And in the demigod realm, the suffering of constant conflict and warfare. And in the God realm, the suffering of being kind of like, because in the God realm, one actually has clairvoyance. And the most painful thing about God realm is that when they're about to die or pass away from the God realm to another form of existence, then they, because of their clairvoyance, they could see where they are going to be born. Like suppose they are going to be born in the three lower realms, then they can actually see with their clairvoyance, and that is so painful to see. So, which means to say, Mifam Rinpoche points out that wherever one is born in samsara, it is not kind of a desirable place. Whether it's the three lower realms of existence or the three higher realms of existence, we are all subject to, those who are in samsara are subject to three types of suffering mentioned before: the suffering, the suffering of change, and the suffering of the all-pervasive conditioned suffering. And we don't have a choice, because we are subject to these three suffering because of our own making. And therefore, samsara is likened to what we call the pit of fire, and sometimes it is called the continent of Rakshasas or continent of cannibals, where there's always a danger, of suffering. And then the sad part is that it is incessant, continuous, like a firebrand. Like when we use a firebrand, then it circulates. And when you see this circular fire, the firebrand, then it's kind of continuous, So it becomes a circle. So in the same way, samsara is circular, like we circulate in samsara, like, from one level of existence to the another level of existence. So therefore, now what is important is who can actually protect us, save us, who can actually help us out of this situation, of this grim situation, from this dilemma, and who can actually save us protect us from this particular deplorable situation, sad situation, painful situation, is the three jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And we need to develop confidence, and a deep confidence, that the three jewels are the only objects of refuge. Other than the three jewels, no one can actually protect us. No one can protect us from this suffering of samsara. No one can protect us out of this, get us out of this situation. And therefore, it's very important to remember the Buddha, remembering the Buddha, recollecting the Buddha. And when we say remembering the Buddha, we remember the qualities of the Buddha. So what are the qualities of the Buddha? The qualities of his wisdom, compassion, power, like 10 powers, for example, then 4 levels of fearlessness, and so forth. All these Buddha qualities of enlightened body, speech, and mind, which actually help us, these qualities actually help us show us the way out of this situation, out of this grim situation, out of this painful situation. So therefore, at the onset of entering the path of Dharma, it's very important that we develop faith. We develop faith in the Buddha. When we develop faith in the Buddha, we talk about understanding the qualities of the Buddha, of his enlightened body, speech, and mind, of his wisdom, compassion, and power.
콩무스만 몇번더 지었단 봐. 대노제 군 세즈부 소장에도 배지 제주 집에 군 통나면 되면 매봐. 사도 집에 이제 나 농가는 이마 쳐봐진도 산일 생일 셈이 사와 강게 거의 바부 컴부 차지 좀 요새 찍기 연대 좀 신고 란저도 집에 손지 좀돼 놓지 까바 장수 세바 요즘 세미 집에 된데 연대 요바 이제 다면 저 찍고 다 된데 좀 자야 뭐 지금 단도 뭐 보여 에 근데 나 이제 다 리제반데 또 주가等于把小吃다 가르쳐도 론데 론지 전이 론지 메시 하만데 론도 늦다비 주자 나비 투바지 좀 생ለ 제니 대조 라네 따야데 다 저런 노와 처음이 게 론은 뜻을 다 대답을 롱아 때마다 다저 때마 샤자 투바 코니 담아 땅길마도 제 때마 수지 때마다 보지 너 저저 이바 치비토니 다 저저 때서 나저 삼바 요이나 때만 자진 먼저 봐지 봐지 때만 좀 되고 동안 그 접접 소함에 봐이 봐지 시토근도 와 어다 된리스 손으로 돈 다 대발집 좀세 단데 차시 존재를 마도 원도 마도 뭐 보여 어다 되는 저런도 고가 좋나 때만 근데 롱요인은 자지 되고 천세를 먼저 그 고마까지 때니 zambelenda no mo to de yore de da zhe ma ji de xie tong ye gong la gong song ji yue de 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 zhe zhe de ya wu ji le song de zhen song jia de ge me
So we are running out of time here, so Rinpoche wraps up with the final word, especially a little bit from the text itself, which talks about the importance of developing faith in the Buddha. Now, this is not just because when you talk about developing faith in the Buddha and particularly following his words, it's not because you're bound to do it because you are a Buddhist. It is because for your own benefit. So one thing that Rinpoche mentioned here is the particular term in Tibetan expression, which is called Rangden Rangche, which means that for your own benefit, to be responsible for your own benefit is something that we all need to keep in our mind. When we say responsible, it means to say that if you wish a better future, then it depends upon us whether we will have better future or not. Nobody is there to kind of like, nobody's an external factor actually can make or break our future. So we are responsible for our own future. So from that perspective, we need to see like, okay, this is the situation in samsara. This is the story of samsara. This is my own story. Like this is how kind of samsara began, how it has been going through, how it is going now, and how it will go into the future. And it is not a very desirable place to be in. So therefore, what is the way out? The way out has been shown by the Buddha, who is a qualified teacher. And you can't find a better teacher than a Buddha, because no one so far in all these different types of religion that we have today, in the major world religion that we have, nobody actually has shown the right path out of this situation that we are in, apart from Sakyamuni Buddha. So therefore, we are so lucky and fortunate to be able to appreciate Buddha's teaching, listen to it, and and have this feeling that, okay, this really makes sense. And as a result of which, we follow the words of the Buddha, not out of compulsion because we are Buddhist and we need to follow the Buddha, but because it is for our own benefit. It is for our own responsibility. It is for our own sake, and not anything else. So therefore, it's very important that first know the the nature of samsara, how it works, and then when we know clearly how samsara works, and then we will try to see what is the way out and who can actually show us the way out. And therefore there will be the appreciation for the Buddha, his teaching, and his followers who follow his words. So a little bit, few lines about Buddha mentioned here in this particular text is Buddha means somebody who has completed the path, who has walked the path, so to say. So Mipham Rinpoche points out, like, he is someone who has walked the path and who has completed what we call the 3 tasks. And what are the 3 tasks? And the task is Dzog Min Jang, which means to say, Dzogba is like who has perfected or fulfilled all the aspiration for the benefit of others. Minba means like who has ripened the mind of individuals, who has led so many sentient beings onto the path and into liberation. And Jangba is who has purified himself in such a way that whatever appears for him is what we call the pure realm. So therefore, because he has completed these 3 tasks, he becomes what we call extraordinary, an extraordinary being who began the journey with bodhicitta and then completed these 3 tasks. And as a result of which, he has this enlightened body, the kaya, which actually is free from all the obscurations, whether it's emotional obscuration or cognitive obscuration. And he's got all the pyramidal wisdom, the 5 types of wisdom, which actually enables him to see the reality as it is and which we lack. So therefore, he is what we call, the Buddha is the ultimate refuge, ultimate protector, and ultimate support. Because Buddha possesses the 10 powers for fearlessness and all the ocean of enlightened qualities. And he who can see the 3 times clearly, the past, present, and the future, directly perceive, and whose words, whose speech, the qualities of the speech is such that it can lead beings according to their own capacities onto the path to liberation and enlightenment. And physical qualities being 32 major marks, 80 minor marks. So therefore, from the Mahayana perspective, unlike the foundational vehicle perspective, in the Mahayana perspective, it is said that even the pores of the body, even the hairs upon the Buddha's body, single hair upon the body is not separate from wisdom, that it can perceive, directly perceive all phenomena clearly and the ultimate reality. So that's what we call the Kutuk Sungjuk, which talks about the body being kind of what you call, even though it appears as a physical form, but it's still very much the wisdom body, inseparable from wisdom body. So in this way, if we try to count the qualities of the Buddha one by one, even if we relate, like for eons and eons, words would fail to actually completely express the qualities of the Buddha. So therefore, it's very important that we actually know these qualities in essence, so that we develop faith based on reason and develop confidence in the Buddha. When we see the image of the Buddha, when we hear the words of the Buddha, and when we recollect him, his qualities, then it will, what we call, sow the seeds of liberation in the mind stream of ourselves. So therefore, as a final word, it's to repeat what has been said, is to be rangde rangche, which means to say, be responsible for your own actions. And if you want a brighter future, it all depends upon our actions. And because when we tread the path, we need direction, and that direction is being shown by the Buddha. And when we follow his words, when we practice those, then it will actually help us see the light and the way ahead. So therefore, and one more thing is that because we don't have time, we ran out of time. In the future, if anybody is interested to really study this text in detail, and it would be good if you can receive in reading transmission of this, as you know that Digo Khenchen Rinpoche, the previous Digo Khenchen Rinpoche, Gyabje Digo Khenchen Rinpoche, has transmitted these the whole of Mipham Rinpoche's the Mipham Rinpoche's teachings to so many students, and so therefore there's abundance of this transmission of the reading transmission, the lineage from the lineage. So at some point, receive the reading transmission, try to study it, try to understand it, and most importantly, whatever you have understood, put them into practice so that your life will be meaningful. So Rinpoche concludes his 2 days of teaching on the treasury of treasury of blessings, the sadhana on Sakyamuni Buddha, and explanation on the text, the sadhana itself, followed by a practice together, and then also introductory explanation on the supplementary text, Pema Karpo, and also the final advice. So with this, we conclude today's session, and then we will do the dedication first, and then Tsering, if there is a mandala offering session or not.
Campbell, we will do the short mandala offering prayers.
Yeah, okay.
So do we want to do it just a short one, because I think that time is
short one. Yeah. Okay, first we do the dedication, right? And then mandala offering, followed by Khenchen Rinpoche's long life prayer. Okay.
Okay, I will share the text.
So yeah, share the text. Sonam di tamje sipa ni tomne nyebe danam pamje shing kega nachi balon chuba yi sibe tsole dowa shu rinjen getso di dowa gun tado tambe chuta mide shing ranshin dunyen zoba tarjin chunga drobe jiden zegar shu Chuzu diya ninde ki korushin choge tato kundo tajo de lode pemo rado geje je sanje temba tashin gedar sho sa shi peju chushin medo tang Rera lenshi nyende kemba di sanje shindo mide pyuwai doge namba shin cheba sho tam guru rana mandala puza mega samuda saparana samaya. Then we do the long life. Sanje Niba Pema Sambawe Ringlo Time Donga Shumram Jam Sune Teda Sambe Nyelengi Gomjong Shera Pela Ringba Shin Leson Dengi Timbo Kebete Dimshin Lapsum Norden Zumbe Kyu Kesan Shedu Duzi Gadeni Chigar Doshi Tende Sesu Men Kundu Yome Lasam Zawa Den Namya Mil Zumbe Yaldabchu Beba Tenden Pende Desami Tashi Tisi Numbe Chezo Shu Enden Lami Kutse Temba Kanyam Yunla Digi Juma Tashen Malu Sosa Dijane Nyudo Sanje Sala Gobar Shu. Okay, Tsering, any final words?
Just thank you to Khenchen La. So Khenchen La to Chiche. Then thank you Kempola for your translations and all the translators. And also thank you for all the patience of everybody online in Zoom and also in Facebook. So for those in Zoom, we will be sharing the recordings to you. So don't worry about that, okay? So anything from Khenchen?
Ken Mujela Tuji Katin Chase, Tinidina Shingi, Kejuru Samara Tuji Chase, Nakazan Chudin de la Tese, Chuchaki, Kalates, on Dilla Congen Chase, any Samala, Kachu, the Neke Tushaki, the Samala, Pugins, Tujan Balance. Then you say Cannabis is one of yours.
Oh, yeah, that so the case so Kalimo Jared. Then the Kodishing is Chibadan. Yang on the Tujiche, Shua Chedon. Then as at the Rishaban, as may say, Son Cheson of the Robs are Kosuri. They don't J. Masova Sheni. Son of the Kachimuri, Karisada. Mazo Tesono Jiag Nomigi. Charging Mobojo, Zombie Decon. Sheba to Seri Soviet, Tuja Momo Zone, Noni she at Shirag, Shuzo Doa. Then Sonotoni, Ronda Ronje Chetak on the Shuanjim. Say Lama Jose Yubate Sono de Tony, Sonje Eji, Donga, the Sonoton Mathona. Tangazu Nisukase, you was a rob Saji. That's one charge you song, Teton Majev no Suji. That's one. Sila Konyuma the Miguel and Jemagu Shona. Tangazu. 제 메시지 너 종주제 송그 때도 둘이라고 노 수지제.
So the Rinpoche's final advice is, first of all, thank you for the organizer, Tsering, and of course for the volunteers, all the volunteers, including the translators who had really made a lot of effort to make this teaching happen. And the final reminder is, after this teaching, we got a little bit of idea about how we landed up where we are, a story of samsara and how to get out of this situation. So it's very important to remind ourselves again and again, because there's a lot of facility or circumstance or conditions for distraction, and especially in this age, because of science and technology, we are surrounded by distractions, objects of distraction, and objects of distractions are in abundance in the form of different technological advance. So therefore, keep this in mind, and also make sure that we remind ourselves again and again where should be our focus, and not to forget our responsibility, not to forget what is good for us in the long run, and then try to put them, whatever we have a little bit understood about Dharma, and to put them into practice, engage in virtuous action, and abstain from non-virtuous action, so that our life will be meaningful. So that's the final kind of advice. So thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, Kempo, sorry, just one request. Can I have a photo taking with everybody here and ask Khenchen to wait for a while? I take a screenshot. So those, can you help to on your camera so I can take a group photos? We take a group photo online.
Yeah. Tani
Yeah,
kamachik kenbuji kamachik shuro nangsi kongi
Yeah.
tanda chaje nane parji gyagins tene rang shuro chis.
Okay. Okay, just I can only take one screenshot. So, yep. Thank you. I will just try to capture. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, thank you everybody. Done?
Yes, Kempo, thank you.
Okay. Last kenbuji that is it.
那没错。
Oh, last this. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you, Khenchen. Thank you, everyone.